Ryan, welcome back.
Thank you.
You're like those folks on Saturday Night Live that show up 5 or 6 times and they get the special jacket and they get to go in the special room. We got to get something like that for you. So, Ryan, today we're going to talk a little bit about vulnerability and exposure management. And I know it's something you're a fan of, something that you've worked with, not just with Sevco, but of course within WWT. And I thought maybe the best way to kick this off would be to just give a quick little 2-3 minute demo for those watching so they can kind of see what it is we're actually chatting about. And then I'll just open up the discussion if that sounds good.
Sounds good.
Okay, let me just jump in. Okay, so I only have 2 slides here. The first one is we're going to talk about vulnerability exposure management, but let's just jump in to see what this is exactly. So if you log in to Sevco's cloud platform, what you'll see in this particular instance is we have 13,771 devices. So we have a lot of devices in here, but let's see what that breakdown is. Well, we're getting device information from CrowdStrike, Jamf, Amazon, Tenable, Active Directory. Looks like 37,000 plus source records, which gets boiled down to about 13,771 devices. Great. So now let's go to the device inventory. I'll just look at devices for now. And anybody familiar with Sevco, you can scroll through all the devices. We have 13,000 plus devices. Again, information coming from CrowdStrike, Tenable, nothing from Automox in this case, and a couple different sources. So here's the device, one particular device. It's a Latitude 5450. Last time it communicated with one of these sources was 11 minutes ago, so it looks like it's relatively healthy. There's actually no configuration or patch management. It looks like there's some CVEs on there as well. We also know it's a critical asset. It's on-prem. It's in Minneapolis. We see here the user or users in some cases that are associated. And no, it's got endpoint, but no config management, and it does have directory services. And it looks like it's going to be end of life in October 7th. So we pulled the details. I like this screen because you can look at what would CrowdStrike show me? What would Active Directory show me? What would Sentinel-1? And then you can see what's actually being correlated for all the data coming in. So that's kind of nice to see and get those very specific views. But more importantly, I think, is this left-hand aggregate where you get all the environmental variables, all the software variables, and then beyond that, all that great asset intelligence information that people historically have looked to Sevco to support. So that's looking at it from a device side. Let's flip things and look at it from a vulnerability perspective. So here we have 8,800 plus vulnerabilities. This first one's the Google Chromium V8 type confusion vulnerability. You see the CVSS scores, EPSS scores. There's 13 known exploits in the CAV. We also have integration with VulnCheck built right in. So you get a lot of rich additional data as well as patch information as well that we pull in from there. So for example, I really like this screen because it says, is this a publicly available exploit? Is it commercial? Meaning, can I buy it on the dark net? Is it just a white paper? Or is there actually something, a Python script or a Metasploit plugin? And you get all that related information. Having that at your fingertips really makes understanding the criticality that much easier, I think. And then you can look at all the affected devices, or you can just say, give me additional information. So reports from the NSA, reports from CISA, reports directly from VulnCheck. I'll just click on this one here from NSA. Looks like there's a Chinese state-sponsored attack that leverages this APT. What's the affected software? Well, we know it's Google Chrome, so it affects Chromium version 10, version 11. Again, temporal scores, base scores, probability, all this rich numeric information pulled in. And then you get to sort of this last exposure view, which I really like. And you can sort things based on no endpoint protection, no config, end of life. We'll just take the first one. And this one is telling us there's no endpoint protection. Okay, well, severity is critical. It's something that we've got 32 we're working on. Nothing's been snoozed. We've actually accepted risk on another 32, and 122 have been resolved. This is tied into ServiceNow. We have some other observations and impacts, and also supporting information like, hey, by the way, half of your devices look like they don't have configuration and patch management. And then finally, we have some stats on the top. There's 588 devices that you need to look at across a total of 2,047 instances. Now, in the last 30 days, 112 devices have been added in this issue. 9 have been resolved. And on average, it takes about 14 days to resolve these issues, which may be good, it may be bad, I don't know, but those are metrics you can look at. And you can also start to validate. For example, IT said, oh, no, we addressed all those. Well, because of the API integrations that Sevco have, you can validate, yeah, well, it looks like some of them actually weren't addressed. So that validation is nice, as well as the metrics to let you know, how long did it take to address these issues? So that's it. I just wanted to give everybody a little bit of primer as we're talking about vulnerability exposure management, what the heck this stuff actually is. So now I really just wanted to open it up to you, Ryan, and kind of get your feedback. Like, let's just talk about sources to begin with, because when people talk about CVEs, the first thing that comes to your mind is a scanner, right? Qualys or Tenable or Rapid7 or name your flavor. Some organizations even have multiple. But we also know there's CVE sources from lots of other places that you probably already have deployed beyond scanners. So what are some of the sources where you get CVE information today?
Yeah, we use a variety of tools and technologies to understand CVEs. Our vulnerability scanner is certainly one of them. Our EDR solution also provides that capability. And then we also ingest threat intelligence reports to understand what's out there in the wild, similar to your VulnCheck integration, to keep track of vulnerabilities that are being attacked or escalated by bad actors.
So safe to say you have certainly two or more sources of CVEs, not a single source.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I always tell folks, again, coming from the SIM space where we were all about, years ago when I was at ArcSite, correlating firewall and IPS and syslog and all this stuff, it just made good sense. Well, the asset side, you want to correlate all your asset intelligence information. You also want to correlate all your CVE information now, because now you have multiple sources of that, and then correlate those things together. So it's really a nice marriage. So how have you managed vulnerabilities and patching and like even prioritization in the past?
So our security team and platform owners historically have had reports from individual tools that they've had access to, but there was never really an easy way to consolidate that data into a single pane of glass. So I think traditionally an organization would probably pick a tool and report that data out to teams, but Sevco allows us to take data from multiple tools and provide enhanced reporting to our platform owners and those who are responsible for patching and remediating those vulnerabilities.
Let's double click on that a little bit. So, using Sevco to correlate that vulnerability information, with IT and security exposures, I think everybody gets that. But also adding business context, like this is critical assets in a critical region. It's got customer data, sensitive financial data, whatever, all that business, non-technical bits. How does bringing all that together change how you manage vulnerabilities and you manage the patches and you manage prioritization?
So I think one of the biggest things is that Sevco simplifies the process of uncovering the root cause
Mm.
behind the vulnerability and patch management hygiene issues with its exposure management capabilities. For instance, if it's lacking an agent and therefore it's not getting patched, Sevco can provide that information. One other very important thing is that it can help prioritize assets, right? So those assets that are critical to the organization and maybe need a higher level of scrutiny in the reporting and evaluation of vulnerability hygiene. It can provide reporting on that so that way the most critical assets are brought to the forefront and reviewed and evaluated with the urgency that they need.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes good sense. Well, you touched a little bit on it, but we've sort of been talking about the front end of vulnerability exposure management, the identification piece. But let's switch a little bit to remediation. So, how valuable is it using Sevco to validate that the risk actually has been remediated? Somebody did something and they did what had to be done to remediate that risk.
Yeah, I think the approach that Sevco takes to tracking the status and remediation of each vulnerability, all within a single pane of glass, is very intuitive and extremely helpful to both information security teams and platform owners.
Yeah. Well, ever since cybersecurity was a thing, people always talked about people, process, and technology being a part of security. And I always like having metrics to be able to evaluate not just how well my tech is doing, but if Brian gets an issue, does it take 3 months for him to solve it? But when Ryan gets it, it takes 3 hours. What's going on? Is it a process issue, training issue? Maybe it's just me. But how does the notion of what Sevco provides in terms of metrics and the calculations there, such as time to remediate, does that help improve your people, process, and technology?
Absolutely. I think the robust metrics and reports can help an organization identify strengths and weaknesses within their vulnerability management program over time, which helps them to refocus efforts on areas that may need improvement. Those may change over time as well. So it really allows you to get real-time data and information on where you need to refocus your attention with your vulnerability management program.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Ryan, thank you so much. As always, your insights and the work that you do at WWT, you're certainly on the cutting edge, on the forefront of vulnerability and exposure management. And I know our audience appreciates you taking the time to share some of your thoughts with us.
Of course, thank you.